Hey writing community, my name is Chris and I am the host of the Writing Community Chat Show. I have a special episode tonight as 10 authors from within the community have sent me a video, all of which highlight their favourite author tips. These tips are universal. It doesn't matter if you've written your first book or your fifth book, these can help you out. And often we do find these tips kind of like a light bulb moment if we haven't discovered them already. And they could make us a bit more efficient as authors and more productive. And that's kind of what we want to do with this show. So if you do enjoy it, please hit the thumbs up and give it a like. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so, as the live shows are really fun and engaging. Please enjoy the show, and I'd love to hear your comments and feedback. See you soon, guys.
Hi, my name's Terry Geo, and I'm the writer of Refraction and The Cracked Reflection. When it comes to writing, the most important thing for me is research. As I write science fiction, I want to make sure that everything I write is as believable as possible or as factually correct, which means that even though I can spend 50, 60, 70% of my time researching, all of that work can then be read in my book. So never feel like you're wasting time searching through Google for hours, because if that's translating to what you write, every second is worth it.
Hello, I'm Louise Fein and I'm the author of two novels, People Like Us, which is my debut, and The Hidden Child, which has just come out in hardback. My top tips for being an author is to develop a lot of patience. Don't be in too much of a hurry, because a lot of people make the mistake, including me, of sending your book out too early. You finish a first draft, which is an amazing achievement in itself, but it is by no means finished. Edit until you are literally sick of your book. The second reason I say patience is because if you're going down the traditional route, it takes a long time to hear back from agents, publishers. Even if you do get a deal, patience is required all the way through the process. So it takes a long time from the time that you hear you're getting a publishing deal to the time that your book actually comes out. It's usually about a year to 18 months. During that time, there will be a lot of silences, and to the extent that you'll think, do they actually hate my book now? Is that why I'm hearing nothing? It's not the case. There are things going on behind the scenes, but you often don't hear about it. So that is my top tip. Keep writing, keep reading, and just keep the faith.
My best writing tip when it comes for anybody out there in this whole business of writing your books is don't get hung up on the small details when you are writing your first draft. The most important thing when you're doing your first draft is getting it done. I see far too many authors out there struggling to get even their first draft done because sometimes they're just hung up on small details, the minutia, and that's fantastic for things like editing or furthermore into proofreading. When it comes to actually getting it out, your first draft should always be your worst draft. I took about a year to write my first manuscript. And then I would say my second manuscript was way less time, third manuscript, so on and so forth, till finally I'm actually able to put out a first draft, sometimes of a book about 30,000 to 50,000 words within 1 month. Why is that? Because I don't get stymied by this inner editor. I just get right to work. I get that first draft out. So what I would say is my big tip is going to be okay with it being less than great. In fact, your first draft can be your worst draft. I just gave you permission. Now go get it, writers.
Hello, I'm Tina Baker, author of #1 Kindle bestseller, Call Me Mummy, and Nasty Little Cuts. Hopefully it'll be the same because I've got vet bills to pay. My #1 top author tip is let yourself be a bit of a mess. It's why pretend everything's perfect. Write the shoddiest, most ungrammatical first draft ever, but just keep going. So on my MA, I actually lost confidence and felt that I'd never ever get anything published. I was worrying over perfect sentences, perfect paragraphs, and it took me ages to just submit anything. Obviously, I think the main thing is to just give yourself permission to have a laugh, write outrageous, write gothic, write, silly. Don't worry about it. Get everything out there, down into the computer, down on paper. Second, third, 45th draft, you can go back and polish it and hone it. Last year I did a sort of my own version of the NaNoWriMo, whatever that was. I just said I will write every day for a month of November. I just did it. I didn't think about it. It was more stream of consciousness and hopefully some bits. It's like priming the pump. It doesn't have to be perfect. So, if I'd have known that, I might have saved myself like 10 grand on an MA in creative writing, but also I might have even started writing novels before that. I waited so long, thinking it was going to be the great opus, it was going to be, the perfect first novel. Just get it out there, get something out there. And also on the promotion, I have climbed in more shopping trolleys in my promotion. I've literally got my kit off. I have sung, I have danced terribly, and it doesn't matter. Just give yourself permission to go for it and have the best time that you can.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Mario Dell'oli. I'm the author of Coming About, Body and Soul, New Men, and my upcoming book, Letters from Italy. My basic writing tip is to keep on writing. Don't be stuck on finding the perfect phrase or the perfect word. Just write what's on your mind at the moment. You can always go back and search for or change the wording or the phrasing. Sometimes when you stop and you've got a thought process going through your head and you stop to try to search for a word, you lose the thread. And that's when it becomes really hard to continue. The other thing is that you don't necessarily have to write in order. And I say that because sometimes we have ideas, or I have ideas, but they're not necessarily what comes next in the manuscript or the book. So my suggestion is to just write that. Start a new document or a new section and just write what's on your mind. You can always come back again and place that where it should go into the whole of the manuscript. I think those are two things that help me with regard to writer's block and so on. So just keep writing, write what's on your mind at the moment, and then you go back and revise and edit and do all that great stuff, okay? And finally, the third thing is to make sure that you have several people proof and edit your book. It's great to use Grammarly or Pro Writing Aid. Those are really great tools if you get the full versions, but they're not enough. Use them. They're really great as a first pass, but then get human eyes on them. All right, I hope that helped, and gotta love the writing show and Chris Saget. Love you.
My name is Nadine Matheson, and my writing tip is don't edit as you go along. Just keep going. You need to keep going like you're in a DeLorean going at 88 miles per hour. Just keep going until you get to the end. If you edit as you go along, if you keep trying to make chapter 1 perfect, it's going to take you so much longer to finish that first draft of your novel. And I always call the first draft of my novel the messy first draft. The messy first draft is your opportunity to make the mistakes. So if your character changes names halfway through, if a subplot materializes out of nowhere, that's okay, because the whole point of your first draft is just to get the story down. Once you've got the story down, then you can go back and edit. So that's my writing tip for you. Don't edit as you go. Just simply write.
Hello, my name is Morehouse. I am the author of the new sci-fi series, New Age Gods. My advice for any new author is to be patient. Your story takes time to get from your mind onto paper, and that process can take years. Mine took me 3. That being said, when you get towards the end, you tend to rush, and you don't want to rush. You want to enjoy the moment of being a new author. You have writing, editing, cover art, writing your blurbs, so many other things that you tend to worry about that you shouldn't. And just sit back and enjoy the moment. Let it sink in that you are an author. Your story's out there. People are gonna read it. Now, try not to get wrapped up in how many sales that you're doing and so on and so forth. Yes, that's one of the reasons that people want to do this, is because they want to make some extra cash or do this as a side hustle or whatever. But just take a moment. Just take a little bit to sit back and let it sink in that you are now an author. Your story is out there. People always say, I want to write a book or I want to do this or whatever, but you've accomplished that. And now you can truly say, I'm an author and I did everything to the best of my ability. So be patient and be kind with each other.
Hi, my name is Natalie and I write as J Simmonds. I've been a published author for 4 years now, and my books include The Pathkeeper, which is a trilogy, and I also co-write as Cadis Knight, paranormal romance series Bloodweb Chronicles. I'm here to talk about my top tips as a writer, and today my top tip is planning. Now, a lot of people think, oh my goodness, I want to write a book, but I don't know where to start. And instead of staring at a blank page, I strongly suggest you plan. Now, for me, that means I start off with my hook. So say, for instance, you have an idea and it involves enemies to lovers falling in love, and they both work in a sweet shop, right? So your hook might be Charlie in the Chocolate Factory meets You've Got Mail, enemies to lovers, falling in love during a sugar crisis. I don't know, something like that. So that's your hook, but that's not really a story. What you need to do is you need to understand what your plot is going to be. And I strongly advise you read this book, Save the Cat Writes a Novel. It teaches you all about the beats that you need to take. So what is your inciting incident? Who are your characters? What happens in the middle that makes them go from wanting something to needing something? Once you know that, you then have to split up your story into chapters, and that's where Post-it comes in. See all of that? That's my latest book. So once I know what my pitch is going to be, and I know it's commercial enough to sell, the agents and editors are going to be hooked, I then go through Save the Cat book, I establish what my beats are going to be, and I split it up into chapters. That doesn't mean that you lose the magic of what's going to happen in your story. You just need a couple of bullet points per chapter, and then you know that your arc and your plot are going to go up and down in the right places, and it'll all come together in the end. I really, really recommend that you do all this planning before you write a book. That way you won't be stuck at the end with the horrible editing of chopping it up and taking bits out and moving it around. That's what really gives you a headache. I did that. I started planning my latest book in the summer. I spent 2 or 3 months thinking about the characters, thinking about the beats, what happens in each chapter, moving all my Post-it notes around. And it meant that I wrote my book in 3 weeks. Actually, in 4 weeks, I wrote 70,000 words. And you can do it too. So good luck with your planning.
Hi there, my name's Tony Lee, and I'm a #1 New York Times best-selling writer of graphic novels, comics. I write audio dramas. In fact, over 30 odd years as a professional writer, I've pretty much written most things. I currently write crime novels under the name Jack Gatland, of which book 8, A Dinner to Die For, comes out this month. If I was to give one of my top tips on how to be a writer, it's very easy, because my top tip is the tip that started me as a writer. When I was a kid, I hated writing. I couldn't work out how to get past the blank page. Coming up with Once Upon a Time, I would come up with nothing. And then one day my teacher, realizing I had this issue, sat me down and said, don't start with Once Upon a Time. Start in the middle. Start near the end. Find that start of Act 3 moment, that exciting singular theme, and go from there. Put the gun down, she said. Start with that. Because once you have put the gun down, she said, you've got questions. Who's got a gun? Who's telling them to put it down? Is it a friend? Is it a foe? Are they in a bank? Are they outside? What has happened to lead to the moment where someone has a gun and someone's telling them to put it down? And because you're working it backwards, you're coming up with a story without having to start at the beginning. So if you say, someone's got a gun, why have they got a gun? They're gaining revenge on someone. Why are they gaining revenge on someone? Because someone has wronged them. What did they do? They shot their dog. Okay, so now you know someone's had their dog shot, they're gaining revenge, they've got, oh, hang on, that's John Wick. But you get the idea. And the reason this is important is because it gives you the opportunity to come up with anything. You can go as crazy as you want with ideas, because when you're working backwards, all ideas work. And what it also means is because you're coming up with the end of the show, the drama, the story, whatever it is, because you're coming up with the end before you start, it means that when you get to the beginning, you already know the things you have to stick in at the early parts to make it look like at the end you've been very clever and understand all these Chekhov guns that you've placed into the story. When actually, all you've done is go backwards. And this is important because it makes it a better story. And you don't have to be scared of that blank page anymore.
Hi, my name is Matt Adcock. I'm the author of Complete Darkness, a dark sci-fi novel, which is now also a comic. My writing tip for you is to visually stimulate yourself. And it's not as kinky as it sounds. So when you're creating characters, you should really find a visual medium that inspires you. For me, I sent out my rough manuscript to some artists I knew, and they created what they thought my characters might look like. This was really incredibly helpful because they weren't entirely what I envisaged them, because they only had my words to go from. Another tip that is in a similar vein is to do a mood board for yourself. So surf the net, find magazines, not those sort of magazines, kind of cut out the characters that look most like yours and emulate them. So look at how they're standing, how they feel, how they their facial expressions. This visual stimulation can really enrich your writing, because when you come to pour your heart into your character through your words, people will pick up a lot more, rather than just you sitting there staring at the wall thinking, I wonder what my character will do now. He might be walking, yes, and perhaps he's chatting. But if you have a visual stimulation to work from, it can be a video, it can be a mood board, like I said, it can be kind of pictures to work from. You can really enliven your dialogue, your whole, make your characters come alive for this, whatever, fuck me.